Hey, what's going on, guys? Just want to review today's session. It was an interesting one. We got some movement in some of the names, not in a ton, but overall not bad. I ended up hitting what three trades and then one in progress, and I ended up losing on coin, which was something that I overnighted last night. All I was really trying to do was get a gap down, right? And the market didn't gap down. It opened up pretty flat from where I entered, and I closed, and it actually should have been a break-even stop. But I did have some slippage in between the bid-ask spread, right where I was trying to get my orders to fill at break even. There wasn't a buyer, so I ended up getting filled a little bit lower for like it was like a 7 to 11% loss. So that's what I lost on today. And I do want to review some of these, right? Because I had a Tesla trade that would have been really good, but I wasn't sized into that very heavy, and I'll show you guys why. I'll show you guys the SPX trade that I took, which was really nice actually. It was a very, very good trade. And then, yeah, kind of go from there. But a really good day. I shouldn't say really good. I didn't capitalize as much as I would have liked. Could have been a lot more. But I did finish out with a pretty good, dollar amount on the day. But let's start with Tesla. Tesla was a very interesting one. As you guys know, right, we were kind of stuck in this little consolidation here against yeah, it was this little level here, right? This little gap spot that was a previous support, okay? You guys can see this here, hopefully. Support here, right? This was the 206 level that I ended up getting that a lot of you guys were asking about. Previous gap support, and kind of holding that low there. Of course, it ended up gapping down underneath, and we were looking for it to maybe push back up and try to reclaim a key spot, which is not necessarily this, right? It's not 206, it's a swing low here. Okay, so swing low, was our level we were looking to confirm back above, and then I thought we had potential to trade back up to 206. Obviously, I would try to get some time on these contracts. It wouldn't happen that quickly. But yeah, I was looking for us to get back above this 194 swing low. And now the market ended up opening right around here. This is where I actually ended up making some of my money. You guys can see we had pre-market low right around here. Okay, and then the market, of course, opened right. It flushed a little bit, then it ended up pushing back up, and then it pulled back and closed. Okay. Now, what ended up happening was I wanted to wait initially for basically contracts to get, I guess, not used to the IV, because you got to realize there is an IV crush factor that ends up happening once the open occurs. But there's so much volatility that contracts really are sporadic in the sense of pricing, right? I didn't really want to alert this for people because this did pull, it opened at like call side. I think they opened almost near like 2.5, 2.6, and then instantly, right, it kind of like recognized that it had gapped down so much. But volatility, how many people were buying the open, kind of kept contracts afloat. So if you just bought calls off the open, you probably got an insanely bad fill. You're probably filled at like 2.5, 2.4, 2.6, and then these ended up dropping, right? And then obviously the fact that we had gap down, right? Prices continually moving down. I think they ended up coming to like 0.90 within like literally a couple seconds. It was insane. But I ended up getting, I think I got like a 91 fill as this pushed down into this pre-market low. It ended up pulling back up, as you guys can see here, right? We ended up pushing back above, and then I ended up getting in right around this little spot here, right between these three bars on the 1 minute. And I risked pre-market low. And what ended up happening was a pretty nice bounce, right? We ended up getting a move from 189 and some change up towards 192.96. I posted this on Twitter. Like I said, I couldn't alert this. This was almost impossible. Had I gotten a 91 fill, right, I guarantee somebody probably would have gotten, by the time they looked at this, probably above this 1 minute bar, this would have already been like 130, right? There's no way that you could have gotten this in time. So that's why I kind of just kept it to myself. But I hit about 70% here. I made about $1,000. I had about 20 contracts, and I scaled on our way to 194. And I would have held this and alerted actually if we got like some kind of break there, pull back here, right? Kind of held here, maybe chopped for a little bit, and then look for that move, back towards, what is it, 205, 206? Yeah, somewhere in that range. But yeah, I didn't actually alert this one. But what I ended up looking for was another push down, and we ended up taking out pre-market low, right, as you guys can see on the one, and we ended up consolidating here. Now, what I ended up doing was I was waiting for some kind of flag just below pre-market low or some kind of higher low to be able to take this. As you guys know, right, I actually ended up looking at the 1 minute for this chart. I probably shouldn't have done this, but it ended up being a pretty good win, right? We were looking kind of for it to hold along this 1 minute higher low trend line. I would have liked to have seen it obviously kind of push up, pull back, and then start. Oh, why did it do that? I have no idea why I did that. Sorry, guys. There we go. And then bounce from here, kind of go up again, and then start trying to take out the highs up here. Didn't do that, unfortunately, but from our entry, which I ended up taking right around here, this first higher low on the 1 minute, I just kind of took it right around here. We can highlight for you guys. And this was the first win of the day, right? I ended up taking it here. Obviously got to push above pre-market high, pulled back, higher low, pushed up, a little bit of higher low. Got a nice bounce, and I thought we got our break of structure here. Obviously this is just a 1 minute time frame. I still expected a higher time frame pullback. And this is kind of where I wish I just had gone with the trend, because we were able to pull out like 25-30%. I remember telling everyone I was scaling here. I put stops break even, which was obviously down here, but with how much volatility was occurring, it was going to happen before the actual level, right? But really all I needed to do is to short. Man, I probably should have shorted against my trims, because if you take a look from high to low, right, we're kind of going with the trend here, 618 was a perfect rejection. And had I just taken the 618 rejection, maybe even just a starter, guys, I would have caught the top there. And really, this was the big trade. And it started to move back through very, very easily to low a day. Now, the thing that I was looking for, and I think might frustrate, or not frustrate, but really catch some newer people off guard, is I was not looking to just short the initial low. Let's jump off the 1 minute time frame here. Really what I was looking at was the 15-minute orb, right? So the 15-minute opening range breakout was from here, right, to here. Okay, so that's our opening range, and then I tried to execute on the 5. And take a look, right? We ended up getting a break underneath this level. It wasn't really a definitive break under the orb low, right? You guys can see the candle's kind of closed above still. This one's slightly below, but it was really flirting with it. And then you got a break under, and then you got a retest. But this isn't really a lower high, right? This isn't, especially, and this is where you got to think in terms of experience of trading particular charts. Tesla after earnings or Tesla under lows really likes to trap people that buy underneath lows, or let's say you're a short, right? Or I'm sorry, a long, they'll trap you over the high. Same with a short, they'll trap you under the low. So that's why I really like to wait for retests of, either the 618. I was hoping we could have gotten another one, because it obviously does change depending on where your highs and lows are. But I was also just hoping that we got like a breakdown. Oh God, what am I doing here? Right? I thought we were going to go down and then maybe a push back up, lower high, just something to fail this level right here, right? Somewhere in this range, I was looking for our lower high to occur, either underneath that or right at that level, and then I was going to take a short on that, and then look for a new low, right? Kind of like that. And I always post these for you guys just so you guys can visualize it. We never really got that. We got a pretty low volume sell-off, as you guys can see. Like the volume didn't really pick up the entire way down. The retest actually had higher volume than the sell-off under, right? So it didn't really meet the variables that I thought were kind of like A plus to short this. I would have just been shorting a low day break, which is still valid. It's just not something I'm going to do with heavy size. And I ended up getting in somewhere around here, right? I think I ended up taking a short, and I alerted it for you guys that I was taking a starter, and I was going to actually add in if we got our lower high, somewhere up here. Unfortunately, it did break down a little bit, and then it started to kind of chop. It pushed back up to this level on, at the time, right? It looked like increasing volume. I was like, this is probably going to end up doing what I thought, right? Why does it keep doing that, man? That's insane. I also have no idea why I'm charting on Thinkorswim. It's because I took that SPX trade on here, so I'm just kind of not switching back to TradingView. But yeah, I mean, this is what I was looking for, just to push up for a lower high, and it just kind of pushed back up. I was like, this is not really kind of like my criteria for a short. I'm kind of worried that some other people went super heavy short into this, because obviously I alerted the trade, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna close. So I ended up closing somewhere down, like right around here, I would say, as it started to get another bottom, because you got to think at the time, right? This wasn't really pushing down on low volume like you'd want to see, especially considering I shorted the low. That's always iffy to get kind of caught in a squeeze, if you will, or a big pop for that lower high. or a trend reversal. So I just said, okay, I'm gonna close this. I think I closed it for like a 23% win. I only made a couple bucks. I didn't make anything crazy. But of course, right, and just retested the previous low, right, or the orb low, and then it sold off all the way to 180. And that was that. I think a couple people actually ended up catching this trade from my starter position alert. Just be careful with these. That's all I'll say. You still want to look for structure. And even on the retest, right, we didn't really have the volume criteria that you'd want to see. You'd want to see this pushing up on low volume, not increasing, right? This was obviously increasing. The retest itself and the sell-off didn't have much volume, right? You didn't get volume until about halfway through the sell-off, like right around here, when you broke the new low. So just overall, not necessarily what I wanted. Sure, I could have held that. If I held that one contract that I had, I think entry was 92 or something like that, 91, and they went to 300. So it would have been a really nice RR trade. But there was a better opportunity for less risk somewhere up here, and then risk the lower high, or depending on where this ended up going up, right? You would have had a much better discounted entry, right, with better parameters, in my opinion. So that was that. What was the other one I ended up taking? Oh, it was coin. I'll show you guys coin really quick, why I ended up losing on that, and just kind of the gist with that one. All right, and coin was a pretty simple one. This was initially something that we longed back on, I think it was the day after this hammer, right? I think it was either Monday or Tuesday. But really, we ended up getting a pretty nice win on it. It's the one that took forever, but what I noticed is the following morning, it ended up gapping up just a tiny bit, right? And we were looking for a hold over this spot here. This has been the big level. It's been like 129.35 to 130, right? So we can maybe, flex this line just a little bit up to here. No, it's not going to work. There we go. Snap. There we go. So like 130.37, just somewhere in that range, right? That's the reclaim that we were hoping to get for a push up near these highs here, like 140 to, I think there's also a gap at like 137. But this is going to look a little bit weird because I can't get rid of extended hours, but this is what it looked like, right, if we had our trend line on. And really, you guys can just see we had a high. What is that? Lower high, right? Technically a lower high. This would have been technically kind of like your higher high opportunity. Remember I said this is the day I think we ended up trading it where we got this nice pop. It pulled back, it gapped up a little bit. But then what ended up happening, right, was you would have liked to have seen this hold at 126, but it did not, right? It ended up failing the breakout, and obviously it didn't even break above our 130 level. So this is still technically, right, putting in those lower highs. That's what the use of the trend line is there for. And yeah, I mean, I was looking for just a continuation to the downside. I remember I ended up taking this yesterday, right around here, I want to say, like somewhere on these lows. And I was green a little bit before close, but really, right, we ended up opening, and I should have held these, but I was looking for just some kind of gap down. I would say maybe it's like instant gratification because this had been in a pretty nice downtrend with the lower highs, especially off the opens, right? That's pretty much been selling down every single time. It was no different today, actually. I mean, I probably should have held this. When it opened, it just really just touched the trend line and then sold off. But yeah, I just wanted to get the immediate gap down. I only had 5 contracts, but you guys take a look, right? 15-minute, ended up opening right at that level, and then of course, wick, 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 and then sold off, right? Like I said, I ended up taking it somewhere over here, the initial entry, and you guys can see we opened relatively flat compared to where I entered. Ended up closing, but this ended up being a little bit of a loss because of the bid-ask spread. I've set my stops at break even. There wasn't a buyer. And it's unfortunate too because this did pull down a little bit. I could have gotten a stop break even or just maybe even a little bit green, but it's all good. But yeah, next time if I ever take this again, I'll probably just wait for that trend line touch because it did pop up a little bit up, and I should have either added here or just kind of stomached a little bit of the move up and really risk that trend line because pretty easy lower high trend line, right? Just rejected right off of that, came down, broke our low, made a new low, right? Lower high, then I started to capture higher lows, higher high, and then it consolidated. So we'll see how this one ends up going. Just from the look of this, I don't know, guys. I'm pretty big on the fact that I still think that this needs to push down a little bit further. This weekly level does need to be retested. We've seen this across all the minor Bitcoin associated names. In between that or this weekly spot there, right? So what is that? 116 to 114. I wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of like downgrade or some kind of headline kind of come out just to give it the last little oomph to push this down into this zone, and maybe buyers will step in at that point. We can see a nice bounce, but I do think this sees a little bit more downside, 6 or so points before this ends up kind of getting a push back up. But yeah, that was a simple loss, right? I mean, that just kind of comes down to understanding your criteria of what the trade is. And even though I was only looking for overnight success on this, I probably should have recognized this lower high trend line, sized in, or just stomached that, because this would have come out green by about like 40% or so with this knife down, right? Especially if I added, it would have been like 60 or so. But that is coin. And yeah, I think that's the other one. Let's look at SPX really quickly, or on SPY, and that will wrap everything up. Okay, this is SPY. I took this via SPX. I think I took the 4880 calls. This was kind of cheating, I will say. It really wasn't anything crazy from a technical perspective. If you guys can't tell, we're in a god-awful range on SPY. Some of these are going to look a little bit weird. So, I mean, let's remove a lot of these levels. Some of these don't matter anymore for me personally. That's good. We don't need that. Right, but let's just focus on the all-time high for now, right? So we have all-time high, and then we have this green line. But if you guys take a look, right, and we zoom in just a tad, it's been really weird. We got the breakout over the all-time high. Should have retested that, but didn't. It's all good, right? We get some kind of like, it looks like a shooting star or some kind of spinning top. Or you can even say, I wouldn't say that's an evening star, but some kind of bearish candle here. Volume's pretty dead in the water if you take a look at the volume. So, could be exhaustion, could not. The next morning we open kind of the same exact spot as the close. We push down, right? We end up testing that low, and then we recover back to the high. Yada, yada, yada. Once again, take a look at the volume. Very, very, very weak inside bar here. And once again, you're probably like, okay, seller exhaustion. This is going to be, a sick trade. What do we end up getting? Or I shouldn't say sick trade, but a lot of people probably were like, okay, we're probably going to get a sick trade in the sense of movement, some volatility, maybe a gap down. I'm sure people went short off of this candle, thinking maybe this is a hammer, or not a hammer, hangman. But no, that's not what we get. We get a gap up, right? Somewhere up here, open, right? And then we end up kind of pushing down. And then obviously, yeah, we have this crazy candle here. And then the next day, what do we end up doing? We open right inversely from the close, and we open up here. That was helpful due to GDP and some of the news that we saw this morning. But now we finish once again inside bar. This probably is going to get another move back up and play the same thing. But now I want to kind of go over the fact that the range here is god awful, right? Risk reward is definitely skewed. What way? Put side, but we don't really have any confirmation. Anytime we get something that kind of looks like a short, it's throwing shorts off sides. And really, the volume's not really there to back any short side move just yet. I do think we retest 480. Just a matter of when. It's a matter of waiting for that confirmation, and we don't have it yet. So it's probably going to continue up. But this was a trade that I was actually kind of just looking for select spots. I wouldn't. That's why I was kind of tying this into the luck aspect. If you guys remember, towards the end of the day, I started the 490 calls for February 16th. Pretty far out, but I'm just giving myself time, to let this play out, because we are seeing some, I don't know, some weird movement across some of these names, just considering some of the bars we've seen paired with the volume. So, I'm trying to hold for any shakeouts, have the luxury of being able to add. And if I'm wrong, right, I mean, I can cut and give myself some grace, and I'm not going to be down quite that much. But what we ended up seeing was pretty crazy in the sense that we saw a ton of dark pool prints pop up once again, right, at the previous day low, or the close, if you will. We saw 485.39 being hit, which is right around, yeah, like I said, it was the close of the previous day. So let's zoom back real quick. Right around here, right? Yeah, so 485.39. So open close, right? So right around the close of the previous day. And that's all they're doing. They're just basically bidding down near the previous day close or the previous day high. So the market ends up coming down. It's just getting walked down, and then they're buying it up with a ton of volume, and then it's getting pushed up end of day, and then we're seeing a gap up. It's been the same playbook for quite some time now. But Yeah, I mean that's all I was waiting for. I saw it. I think it was 1.2 billion. The market otherwise was pretty dry in terms of volume. You guys can tell it's just kind of consolidating here. And then as we got our sell-off, right, where does that volume spike kick in? Right off. And I don't think it was 185.39 exactly. It was a little bit lower. It was 185.30. Remember, they can move their orders the same way we can. They can take it early, but this ended up getting a nice drop where we had a break of a low here, and it tapped into this spot here. I ended up taking a contract starter, right, where we ended up getting a nice move initially up. I think was telling everybody I was up like 30, 40, 50%, and then we got this little spike and pullback here and made this 3-bar kind of consolidation, higher low, obviously, right? We had the low off of our level where we knew buyers were at, and then we had our higher low. So I added 2 more contracts for a 3-contract total, and then we got a really nice spike up, right? We got the push, pull back one more time, and this is where I'm kind of upset. I probably should have added one more time, but I was adding into, my average would have been much higher than what I initially had, right around 245, 240. But had I added here, there was actually the 40, I think it was the 48.90s that were 25 cents, guys. Remember, all I was really targeting were these lower highs up here. So I was looking for this, and then I was looking for this here. These were the 2 levels that I was targeting. This obviously ended up pushing up into target. That's why I closed most of mine at like 80%. I put a stop loss break even. This pullback obviously is what stopped me out, and I was just watching the chart at this point and pretty satisfied with the fact that I hit my first TP and I got stop break even. I was like, okay, I made 480 bucks or something like that. I'll take it. Unfortunately, like I said, those contracts were 25 cents, and being that close to end of day, the 48.90s were right around here, right? I think the 48.90 strike was slightly above. And yeah, these contracts went from 25 cents to 260 or 290, so almost 1,000% win in a matter of a couple minutes. And yeah, it is what it is. I was thinking maybe we saw like an end of day sell off to actually get the fill from these guys at 2 or 485.30, and then a big spike, and wherever that would have led us, those would have been a huge win. But it's okay. This was still a good trade. Like I said, it wasn't anything super technical. It wasn't anything crazy. I wasn't using some of my other methods. I just kind of spotted where a bunch of buyers were in an otherwise a liquid market for today. Notice, the total amount of 1.5 billion sitting here at 485.3, pulled down, got to push up, right? I took a starter as it led into that level, added higher low, right? And then took profits into my designated spots. That's always good. I'm not going to get frustrated with this, but I wish I would have sized in on this third higher low in the consolidation of this right here, right? This was a pretty nice spot to kind of justify another entry. But it's okay. It is what it is. I came out green. I know a lot of you guys ended up taking this in the general chat, but yeah, this pop here really sent those contracts. I think the ones that we were in from the low and the higher low, 48.80s, I think they went from an entry of 2.4 at the peak. Man, these things went to almost $9. So 200 to 1,000 is not bad. So it's all good though. I'm sure we'll find more of these as time kind of presses on. We do have PCE tomorrow, so I expect another volatile day. And we'll see what we end up getting. But that's going to be the recap. I hope you guys can see this. I usually don't record this on Thinkorswim, so hopefully, resolution looks good. You guys can see all my levels and whatnot. But that is going to be all from me. I will see you guys tomorrow bright and early. Really quick, I do want to let you guys know before I leave, I was pointing this out on the chat as well. Always important to watch your other time frames. Remember, I kind of mentioned I was just looking at it on the 5 for my entry. That's actually not true. I was looking at this. If you guys know my setup on TradingView, I have a 4-panel thing. So like it'll be a 5-minute on the upper left, the bottom will be a 15, upper right's an hourly, and the bottom right's the daily. And I remember telling everybody, like, look at the 15 with the candle close here. And look at that, very, very high volume. It's not not the highest volume, but since the open, right? Like I said, this was a low volume pullback into where the buyers actually were. So rather a liquid market. You finally see volume step in at a known level, right? You finish with a very nice hammer, and you just kind of risk that low there. So that was one of the first telltale signs. This is a very, very classic like VPA type trade. So that was the one thing I did want to add on to this. It wasn't just like I knew that the buyers were there, I took the trade. I did see the 15 minute. I pointed out the 15 minute, the volume paired with the candle with the known buyers at 485.3. And that was another reason for that trade. So it wasn't just what I said earlier. So just wanted to throw that in there.